All righty. Before we close up the evening's festivity, or morning or afternoon, whatever time you choose to watch the program, before we close up the festivities, I'll just leave it open ended. We got to talk about SmackDown because whereas, again, we mentioned that AEW has apparently lost the plot, as our friends across the pond say, and they're just grasping everywhere like they're in quicksand and gesticulating, trying to find a low-hanging branch. They're not going to do on SmackDown, but you know exactly what they've done when it's over with. Is that the best way to say it, bro? They will bore you to tears, but at the end of the program, you remember everything that they really need you to know, and you understood kind of why it was going on.
They bore you in a pleasant enough way that you hang around to the end because you know something's going to happen, or something will be about to happen, and you'll be led to believe something may happen more next week.
Yes.
At the very, very end.
And the people that are perpetrating it are, in large part these days, people that are known to the public. Remember, there was a time a couple of years ago we said, Jesus Christ, I wish hit me in the head so I can see some stars when I watch this program. And now you're looking at you got Bianca, you got Charlotte, you got Ripley, you got Punk, you got Cody, you got LA Knight, you got Orton, Logan Paul, Pat McAfee shows up. You never know what the fuck, right? And these are not, again, I hate to say it about my generation, the legends that are showing up. These are goddamn people that are still contemporaneous and getting in the ring. So anyway, having said that, they started out December 1st SmackDown with the Women's War Game package, and they're trying to, this drama amongst the girls. Bayley now is an island unto herself and her group Damage Control because Tegan and Oscar and Io and Carrie,
Tegan.
They're kind of all, huh?
Dakota, not Tegan.
I thought it was Tegan. It's Dakota.
No, they used to be a tag team a long time ago.
Well, okay, Dakota. Whichever one's still hurting ain't working. The point is, they're friends from long ago, and Bayley's starting to be iced out of this deal. But Bianca came to the ring first because she's over. The fans love her. This is a level of star power that AEW or any other company's women's roster can't touch at the top of their company. It was Bianca, Charlotte, or Rhea, Becky, etc. I'm not going to include every single member of this group that's about to come out in that equation, but Bianca thanked her partners and told Io Sky that she was coming for her because she wants her title back. And I don't know if you noticed or if you zoned out or if you even cared to watch this, but this is the kind of thing that especially the women, unfortunately, perpetrate this even more than the guys do, because maybe some of these women are coming from a theater background. I don't know. But they know what's going on, and they're the modern generation. They're not trying to look at it from the standpoint of if it was real, if this was really legitimately happening, what would my reaction be? They're worried about getting all their script out, right? So Bianca strongly makes the point to Io Sky, I want my title back. And then she paused, and then she smiled, and then she put the microphone down to her waist in her hands and started to turn and look for Io's music to play. And when it started playing, she was visibly, facially, obviously not surprised about that. What this?
She must have seen the format.
Exactly. And it's gotten to the point where now they go out and they perform their given verbiage and then pause and wait for the obvious and expected and totally not extemporaneous interruption from and it's so school play-like at this point with a lot of the girls' segments and some of the guys. I'm not going to be totally chauvinistic there. But then here comes Dakota and Oscar and Io and Carrie. And again, they're memorized and they're laid out so nobody is talking over each other. No lines get interrupted. It's too smooth, and everyone is expecting to say these things and expecting these things to happen. And with the four heels getting in the ring, Bianca just stands there and then just starts bickering with them. And she's not intimidated, but a lot of people are like, she's a babyface. She shouldn't. Okay, if she's not intimidated, she should be mad. Or she should be standing her ground or preparing to potentially be jumped. But it just sounded like girls arguing on a reality TV show. And then they play music and Charlotte comes out. Now with Shotzi. And they're not mad either, though, because they get in the ring and just start talking to them. And then they just get in a fight. And it's sloppy. And the heels get their asses kicked. And then they roll out and have shocked faces in the entryway as they're leaving with their tails between their legs. And, once they go to the break and they come back, there are more girls arguing now. The heel girls were arguing with Bayley. Where were you? And she's like, well, I didn't know you were going out. Well, if she was really intent on going, she could have caught up with him in the previous 20 minutes if she's paying attention to the fucking monitor. And then they asked Bayley to help later on with Bianca. And what the fuck is this, Women of Wrestling? We're 20-something minutes into the fucking show, and we got a bunch of girls fucking bickering with each other. Help me here.
There really is no help. And yeah, they've done this now a few times where they start the show and have a long segment with the women. I guess because they know there'll be a lot of viewers there at the beginning. Who knows why. But Swami's barking at the UPS man if you hear that in the background. And I will say I'm starting to like Charlotte, or believe Charlotte is a babyface, more than I did before. She's just casually kind of finding her way in it. And now, of course, as I say this, she'll probably turn next week. But I feel like she's actually doing a good job as a babyface. I didn't think she would.
Well, and here's the thing is, I'm not detracting from Charlotte as a babyface. I'm not detracting from Bianca as a babyface and a star, both of them. And again, I've said Bayley's a good promo. I suggested one time she might be a good manager when her in-ring career was over. I didn't know she was going to put together a group of girls all smaller than she is. But you got Bianca and you got Charlotte. Shotzi, we're not as the gimmick, the whole overboard thing, haven't seen a lot in the work. But again, it's fucking 6, 7, 8 of them, 9 of them, all fucking, screaming at each other or not screaming at each other, depending on at whatever point. And it just, in the war games, a little much for me. I'm still smarting over that one. But did you see Bobby Lashley and the new Hurt Business, a.k.a. the Street Profits?
No, I actually didn't really watch this segment.
Well, they put Bobby Lashley in a single match against Butch. And Lashley looks great. Again, got some new gear. The Street Profits, he's got them dressed up, except one guy's wearing red pants. I don't know what the fuck is going on. And they had a little angle going where Lashley blew Butch off in the promo last week, like, kid, don't speak to me until you go make a name for yourself or whatever. And apparently Ridge has walked out on the Brutes, and Seamus has been missing because he's injured, I guess, for real, but he's been missing. So Butch is on his own. And they booked Butch against Lashley. And Bobby, he did a promo at the start, and he told him to make a name for himself, he didn't mean with him. And kid, I'm going to break you into pieces, right? And they had a little match and it blah, blah, blah. I tried to give this one a chance, but they went to the break in 2 minutes after the fans were chanting, "Let's go Bobby," at this huge heel bully, kicking his shit out of this fucking, again, a little baby face. But when they came back, Butch's comeback was 3 enziguris and some weak kicks by, just by rote. And then Lashley speared him 1, 2, 3 and put him into next week. And that was an entertaining little piece of business that I could have done without the commercial break in it, right? In the middle of something that short. But what we saw on television, I don't know what they did for 3 minutes with the people in the building. It was too long for the people in the building. But to see 4 minutes of Lashley beating up the little guy on television, that's what you need. You need, even the big stars sometimes need to win some fucking matches decisively on television. But at the same time, the way they set it up with a little bit of a personal issue, and Lashley wasn't like, "I'll kill you, you son of a bitch." He was scoffing at this little prick that has so much gumption and talking up to him. Makes him the heel, and Butch is the baby face because he's not going to back down against this guy that's about to beat his brains out. And get it out of there in 5 or 6 minutes. Why can nobody figure out how to do that in AEW?
Because Tony's in charge.
Well, there you go. I expected a more vehement answer. But anyway, so Lashley basically knocked poor Butch into dreamland. And you know, Brian, I had him redo those rings. They used to be hard as concrete back in the 80s in the Andre and Hogan and Bundy era. But I've told you the story about how I had the rings redone a little bit for the younger guys that were taking more bumps, and how I talked Vince into it. But there's still those rings up there. There's still no Helix sleep mattress. I think you can agree with this.
I agree. I agree with what you're saying, and I agree with where you're going, because I love Helix sleep.
See, and Butch got knocked into dreamland, but you don't have to have a 300-pound ex-wrestling champion run you over to go to dreamland yourself. All you need is a Helix sleep mattress in your own home. And we've been talking about, we both have them. We both love them. As a matter of fact, Stace just ordered another one that's amazing, because not only is it good for her bad back as the other one was, but also it cools you. That's the cool down. I didn't realize. I thought, well, I don't really need cool down. You never know how much you need cool down at night until you get the cool down mattress. Holy cow. It's like some kind of chemical wizardry. It feels like it's been in the refrigerator.
You know, for a long time, you've had one Helix sleep mattress, and we've had several Helix mattresses here in the house. Now, all of a sudden, you're starting to catch up. This is a competition, you think?
Well, that's because you're just hoity-toity, and you change all of your major things in the house so often because you have that crew standing by. You've got the butler, you got the downstairs maid, the upstairs maid, the chauffeur, the gardener. They just carry things in and out. Well, it's just me and the Monroes and the Featherbottoms around here. And you know that all of them are severely under-equipped. Either each of them has one arm or each of them has half a brain.
Half a brain?
Well, in the Monroe's case. But together they make one.
Shibata Monroe?
No, they never divided Shibata's brain.
Oh, that's true.
That's true, but I'll tell you another thing. We've been talking about these Helix mattresses for so long that, folks, you know the drill. You know about the 10 to 15-year warranty. You know about the 100-night free trial. You know about the fact that you're not going to have to go to a mattress store and lay on some filthy DNA-ridden mattress that other people have done Lord knows what all over. Especially when those stores are closed, that's where they have the big parties. You don't have to do any of that with Helix, but also, we've now been told, we've been telling you, we've been alerted to this, Helix mattresses do not contain fiberglass, which can be harmful to your health. Did you know, Brian, that some mattresses, some brands, use fiberglass as a flame retardant in their mattresses that you're sleeping? You've got your face buried in to fiberglass. Well, that could cut you wide open from asshole to appetite. That fiberglass, like any other glass, is sharp as a serpent's tooth. And you're not going to be sleeping on a bag of glass with a Helix sleep mattress. You know why? Because Helix owns its own manufacturing facility, which is entirely free from products containing fiberglass. And they've taken it a step further. They've banned all kinds of glass. As a matter, you can't wear your eyeglasses when you walk into this facility unless they're plastic. And they've taken out the windows. It's just a giant block of concrete.
What?
There's no sunlight that penetrates through any crack of this thing. It's like going into a tomb. As a matter of fact, some people, but the employees, by the time they take their eyeglasses off and work about 10 or 15 years in this entirely concrete encased facility, not only are they not exposed to any fiberglass or any other kind of glass, but they start to mutate, much like the fish at the bottom of the lake under Mammoth Cave, where they eventually, evolution takes over and they have no eyes.
Who?
So we've got to buy these mattresses to help out these people.
The workers?
The workers, they're going blind.
No, they're
all
not.
to keep you free of fiberglass and fiberglass-related injuries.
All Helix workers, if that's what they are called, it sounds awful that way. All Helix workers are happy. All Helix workers will...
Well, some of them are making the best of a bad situation, yes, but they're going blind for your comfort. So the least you can do, ladies and gentlemen, is buy one of the most comfortable mattresses out there today that can be delivered right to your door, that requires you not to go out in public and roll around on. And you can try it out. If you don't like it, you can send it back. They give you your money back. They're suckers that way. But you're robbing them blind, literally. Because these people they're giving up their eyesight for your comfort.
Figuratively, metaphorically, you're robbing them blind. But in reality, it's a wonderful deal from a wonderful mattress. Safe
I don't have time to look up the exact meaning of literally right now, but people use it in a lot of different ways. But right now, folks, if you want to save some money, I'll tell you what you can do as soon as I find the line that tells me. That's right, because Helix right now is offering 25% off all mattress orders and 2 free pillows for our listeners. In honor of the holidays, you go to Helix Sleep, that's HelixSleep.com/JCE, and I'll wait till you get a pen and paper, ladies and gentlemen, because you're going to have to write this code down, so we'll wait just one moment while the pen and paper is found. The code is Helix Partner 25. Helix Partner 25, because you're going to get 25% off. See what they did there. Helix Partner 25 at HelixSleep.com/JCE. 25% off and 2 free pillows just because they love you and they're not going to cut you with glass. Save their eyesight.
That's right. They're not going to cut you with glass. They're great mattresses. Worry about nothing but a good night's sleep, which you won't even have to worry about that. Helix Sleep. One more time, what's that promo code?
Hold on.
Wake up.
I was waiting for him to get a pen. Helix Partner 25.
All right, well, wake up and go back to bed. It's Smackdown.
Wake up and take your sleeping pill. They had a package on the men's War Games and Randy Orton's return, and Paulie, I'm loving Nick Aldis. Are you loving Nick Aldis? Just the general flavor.
I'm loving Nick Aldis, but also the dynamic between Aldis and everyone. Because everyone has like this weird relationship with him, especially Pierce. And I want to see where that's going to go. But Aldis has been great in this role so far.
Yeah, and he's not being he's not being a heel in a traditional sense where he's siding with the heels. He's being a snotty showrunner that's out for probably himself down deep. And he's when he's interacting with Paulie, he's always wanting to call the shots on this program as Aldis. So he's not, cowering or whatever. Pierce is more of a baby face. He can get a little more exasperated with the situation and is more sympathetic and also he's familiar, and the dynamic between them is mwah. But Paulie's there with Aldis, and Paul asked Aldis if it's true that he invited Randy Orton to SmackDown. And Aldis says, yes, and I'm going to sign Randy Orton to SmackDown tonight here on the program. And Paulie's, well, does Roman Reigns know about this? And Aldis says, well, there's an email that I get many times that says all communication to Roman Reigns has to go through Paul Heyman. So this is the communication. What are you going to do about it? And Paul says, anything it takes. So it's simple, but they're building some drama in a 45-second fucking interview with the top people in the company that you can easily understand. And there's no point system here. That's, I guess, what's getting over.
So when are we going to get Aldis versus Pierce? Will it be a big thing like WrestleMania? Will they just do it on TV to settle like some kind of debate? When do you think we'll get it? We're going to get it. There's no way we're
Well,
not.
no, but I'm not saying I don't want it. I'm saying I think WrestleMania is rushing it. I think they ought to run this thing for a long time and have before they are actually physically put in a position of getting in the ring and settling the score or whatever, because then one of the scores has to be settled. And who's going to, unless you're doing a program with them. I didn't make people want it. It took me a year and a half to make Commissioner Bob Armstrong a wrestler again in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. And they didn't have the fucking cast, or we didn't have the cast characters they have. So they could stretch this thing out like it could be an ongoing thing. It better be.
No, but Aldis has been perfect in this role. And, you know, this is the best way to use him right now. This has been great.
But then, I swear to God, then they do this stuff so well, and these people look like stars and look like important people. And then here comes another cheetah segment in the Tarzan movie where they go in the back and there's Purely Deadly, and they look ridiculous. And Butch has the hangdog face, and they talked bad to Butch, and he answered them back, and they beat him up. And I felt like with all the accents, I was watching the British Broadcasting Corporation. And it was a fucking backstage fight between models and maybe one of the fucking cabbies that showed up. It's unnecessary. I'm not saying don't do anything with everybody on your roster. I'm saying the preliminary guys, especially when they look that ridiculous, don't all have to be in fights backstage. It just makes it blah when the stars do it. Nobody cares anymore because it's always done. Anyway, you liked, from what I remember you saying to me, old Escobar's match here on the program. He cut a heel promo on Mysterio and Carlito and, you know, the LWO guys, because now he's become a heel. And, you know, he's like, fuck all these guys. They left me. They turned their back on me. They stole the family, the whole 9 yards. He's got a gripe. And whereas I thought Escobar was a little bland as a babyface, I do admit now he's a good heel promo. He's got a little surly look to him and a little snarl. And I'm liking the promo here. And he can actually speak so you can understand him. Unlike many of his countrymen that are put on television these days. Do you like Mr. Escobar?
I think Escobar's been really good. I started really liking him as a babyface. It's like the Dakota Kai thing years ago in NXT. Perfect as a babyface, and then the heel turn. Wow, this is even better. Escobar's been great as a heel. Good fired up promo. Great intensity. And, you know, I don't know what else to say. The other LWO guys are kind of dead in the water without him.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because then he wrestles one of the LWO guys, Waukegan Wild from Waukegan, Wisconsin. No, Joaquin Wild, I believe is, we'll call him Waukegan because that's easier to say. And I don't know what he was doing because he started out the babyface, old Waukegan. Everything he did was herky-jerky, except the dive that he did perfect, right? He, flipping off the top rope and it, but otherwise the punches were stomping and wildly over exaggerated with the swing, and it looked like either he was nervous, he was rushing. We haven't seen this guy wrestle in a long fucking time. Who knows if he's rusty? And maybe it's because they had no time. They only went like 3 minutes, but I wrote he can't punch. He's herky-jerky. He rushed his comeback. And then Escobar beat him with his finish, 1, 2, 3, 3 minutes. And then he starts continuing to get some heat on the guy. And music plays, and here comes Dragon Lee. And suddenly Dragon Lee has been inserted or penetrated himself into this thing over the last few weeks. And at first, Escobar bailed, but then he came back in to try to surprise Dragon Lee, and Dragon Lee did some awfully contrived stuff to Escobar, and Escobar bailed out. And I wrote, "Where is Carlito? I thought this was supposed to be Carlito and Escobar. What the fuck is going?" And didn't Escobar just beat Dragon Lee on the pay-per-view?
Clean.
Then where is Carlito? Who has Carlito? What?
Maybe Carlito's hurt. Maybe no one cares. I mean, I don't know what to say.
What is Carlito's way?
Maybe the way to San Jose or Bayamon. I'm not exactly sure.
I want Carlito. Give me Carlito at Escobar. What the fuck is this Dragon Lee bullshit? God damn it.
I have to say, Dragon Lee is good. I've seen him do good stuff before he got to WWE. He doesn't stand out at all in WWE. The mask, the ring gear. You know, I'm usually not too picky on this kind of stuff with the luchadors, but he doesn't stand out. He seems more generic than most, I think, there.
And it's overdone. That's why I can't keep track of who's on the other channel unless you have a goddamn... They don't identify most of the luchadors that just wander into backstage promos, or there's no graphic. So you're like, unless you have a mask chart and you've memorized, well, there's Penthouse, there's Felix, there's Commander, there's Gravity, there's Motion Sensor. So then Aldis and Pierce were together. And Pierce asks if Aldis intends to sign a Raw legend like Randy Orton away from him there that night. And Aldis says yes. Well, Pierce says, I've got my own contract here, and I'll be joining you later. Now they're fighting over signing Randy Orton. Not fighting, but arguing, and there's a competition here. It took 45 seconds, and okay, now I know some more shit's going to go on. And, you know, in between most of these speaking parts, they either have a crummy match or goddamn long entrances or endless self-gratification spots about how great they are on various platforms. But at least they make the points and you can follow it from one segment to the next. So then what'd you think about Logan Paul at the 9 o'clock hour?
I think he's great.
Again, this guy, and whether you, I'm sure that I would hate him as a person to just hang around with, be around, talk to. We would have nothing in common and he would probably drive me out of my mind. But as a natural pro wrestling talent, as somebody who gets the fucking, not only the verbal part of it, but the psychological part of you're stirring people up, but how to keep himself over or important or not to just say ridiculously stupid, out of place things, and to have the kind of matches that he's having, even where some of his, obviously he doesn't have the fluidity of a guy who's done this day after day, week after week for several years. He's fucking natural. And he's another mega star at this point in time, what's considered a star these days in the wrestling business, that they've got, you know, tied up. It's amazing. And he's the U.S. champion. And he said, the more that you people hope I fail, the harder I work. And I just wrote, he's got all kinds of energy. He's got the personality. He's got a gift of bullshit. He said he's the fastest rising star in WWE history. And then, of course, he gives us the bad news. They're having a tournament too. But do you think they're just doing this because they're like, all right, you fucking moron over there. If you want to have, we'll show you how to have a tournament. People will understand and we will make something business-wise out of it. Do you think that's it, or is this complete coincidence?
They should use that. They should have next week Logan Paul comes out there and goes, here's the tournament. I've devised a point system. And then you could have Aldis come out and say, we're not doing a point system, single elimination. What do you think this is?
Well, he announced the tournament, but I'm not particularly looking forward to it because the people in the tournament to determine his next challenger for the U.S. title are Escobar, Dragon Lee, Karrion Kross. I forgot he was a thing.
When he said his name, I was like, oh my God, I forgot about him. And then I couldn't find him in the graphic because I forgot he had the hair. Like, it took like 2 different times that I'm showing the graphic for me to find him.
You thought he was the NXT silhouette wearing blackface.
I wasn't sure who he was in there, no.
And Lashley and Grayson Waller and Austin Theory and Kevin Owens. I mean, I get Cross is in there. Somebody's got to lose. Whoever from NXT.
Well,
hold on a second. Go ahead then. Jump in.
Would you use this as a chance to elevate someone from NXT, or because it's against Logan Paul as opposed to like a Randy Orton, someone who knows how to maneuver himself after a lifetime in the ring?
Yes and no. That's no, this would not be the place to bring Braun Breaker up, right?
Right.
Unless then he was going to just mow Logan Paul down and win the whole goddamn thing. I don't think they're going in that direction. It looks like, see, here's the thing, Dragon Lee and Karrion Kross and somebody from NXT who may get a break, but that's for people I would think to lose in this tournament. You've got Owens fixed to come out and interact with these yahoos, Waller and Theory and Escobar and Dragon Lee. There's a way, I think it's probably just a little, and Lashley, there's poor Lashley. We're not going to see Lashley and Logan Paul, I don't think. So maybe somebody from NXT fucking ends up getting in a program with, oh my God, this is a mess, actually. It's got to be Owens. It's got to be Owens, doesn't it? Because he just comes out here. They're telling us what's going to go on. We're not going to be surprised by this.
Owens versus Logan Paul. That's interesting.
Well, looky here. And I don't think they did it just because it was Waller and Owens. They announce a tournament, and then Owens comes out, his music plays. And by the way, somebody compare what Kevin Owens looks like in 2023 to what he looked like in 2012. He's 11 years older, but he's lighter. He's trimmed his hair. He's trimmed his beard. He's cleaned up his gear. Everything that he hates me to this day for telling him to do and threatening to get it put in his contract, he'd do it until they couldn't figure out how to write it, that he wouldn't do and refused to do and never did, he's done. My hat's off to you. But Owens said, you in my ring is a nightmare, an unbearable jackass with a crap drink. And he vowed to win the tournament and the title. And they stood there and talked back and forth to each other in WWE style until the music plays and Waller and Theory come out. But what I'm thinking is, there's Owens is the odd guy in here besides Lashley, and I don't think that Lashley we're gonna see him against Logan Paul. That Escobar and Dragon Lee are in a program, Waller and Theory are in a tag team, unfortunately, thing. And maybe Cross and the NXT guy that gets NXT guy a win, whatever. But it seems like it's Owens from the candidates. And for the U.S. title, at least Owens has some stature in the community. But nevertheless, Waller and Theory come out, and there again is Waller, dressed in that lime green lame bullshit. And Theory's got has anybody sunk faster than Theory? The one bad thing about Vince McMahon being banished to billionaire land off of creative is poor Theory just looks like a sap now alongside King Sap.
They say that they like them together as a team, that actually it was a temporary thing, and now WWE's happy with how they are interacting with each other and getting over or doing things with each other, I guess.
Oh, good Lord. Well, then that means we're doomed. We'll never see Theory in a serious light again. And Owens punched Theory and knocked him out of the ring with one punch, and Waller went to get him. They beat Theory in all the matches. They knock him out. Waller gets all the interview time. And Owens and Logan Paul stared at each other after the two heels had been dispatched by one punch from Kevin Owens, and he turned his back on him while they were still at ringside and stared at Logan Paul. And he went to the break, and then we come back with Waller and Owens in a match. But I think it's got to be Owens and Logan Paul. I think they're telling us. Shouldn't we believe them?
I mean, you would think so, unless NXT is used, that NXT blind spot is used to do something. But would you
the silhouette? Actually, no. That's again. They've been hiding this guy, but they've been training him in secret. He dresses in all black with no eye holes in the mask, and they call him Silhouette.
If you were going to bring up a Braun Breaker and do something to get him on the main roster, would you do it this time of year? Would you do it December?
Well, no, but I wouldn't also do it in a tournament, as you said, to wrestle a guy who is a big star but is not an experienced professional. I think that, and I think that it would. I don't just think they'd bring Braun Breaker in blind after he's been on NXT television for that long and people have seen him. I don't think they'd bring him in a tournament and well, here he is. They have bigger plans for him whenever they decide to do it, I would imagine. But Waller and Owens, there was one good line from one of the announcers said Owens was inspiring, and Logan Paul said Owens inspires him to go to McDonald's. But anyway, the finish of this thing, because I'm not going to watch Grayson Waller work, is that he stuck Owens's hand in between the turnbuckle and the turnbuckle pad and then left it there to back up like Owens couldn't pull it out. And Owens is keeping it in there. And then when Grayson Waller goes to kick the pad with the hand in it, Owens pulls it out like he's fucking pulling his Excalibur out of the fucking stone and schoolboys him 1, 2, 3 and rolls out. And that was the resolution of that match. I ain't kidding. So that's why I'm saying star power is what we're selling here, folks. And speaking of which, then they had the package on the most sexual moment. I'm sorry, checking my notes here. The most social moment in WWE history was the return of CM Punk. We got to start calling him the Rainmaker, don't we, Brian?
Was it the most sexual moment for you? Are you trying to say something?
Well, like Mussolini!
Oh my God, what happened there?
Uh-huh.
Someone grabbing your crotch?
Oh, boy. Don't squeeze too hard.
Is it you?
No.
Oh.
It's my special crotch grabola 3000 machine.
Yeah, I didn't even go with who then. If it's not you, who?
CM Punk is the Rainmaker because 95 million views, they say, across all social media platforms. As a matter of fact, obviously, as we talked about last week, we trended on YouTube with our comments on him returning. And, at this point, you can't really say that even Roman Reigns or even Cody Rhodes or even Brock Lesnar or whoever, nobody else in wrestling gets as many people talking and or talking as excitedly or vehemently or opinionatedly as CM Punk does, do they? Every news outlet covered this, and not just the ones that you would think have resorted to going for clicks these days, as we found out, like Sports Illustrated, but I mean, fucking networks. On the, so.
And for anyone who wanted to argue if he was or wasn't the biggest star in AEW, there isn't anyone in AEW now or up to this date, anyone who's been there and left, who could have gotten this kind of reaction.
They couldn't get elected dog catcher next to this. It's in. And again, not only real news outlets, but real reporters covered this, not the crumb or the scrum crumbs that Tony has, that's paid guests practically. So, and they did a package and it makes it look big. And then a recap package of the Raw promo, which came off better in package form with B-roll because he made the points. He made a lot of points. And we didn't say there was anything wrong with what he said. We just wanted more or something more, a more dramatic announcement. But at the same time, when you look at this package, he's got a high bar to live up to with the promos that he's dropped in the past that have shocked people. So, because a lot of times, we forget you can't shock somebody every week unless they're a mental patient in the 50s. And then, but any comments on the packages there?
No, I think they're doing a good job of promoting how big Punk's appearance was without saying how he said nothing on Monday. And now he'll be here next week on SmackDown to say nothing, or maybe give a little bit, and then you could tune in 2 weeks later on Raw. Is he going to be on Raw this week, or is he just on SmackDown?
Well, we don't know, do we?
Well, you would think they would announce it. WWE usually announces that kind of thing.
But they didn't announce he was going to be at Survivor Series we're paying attention, right? But for the people now, it's like, shit, Punk's back. I get a lot of people in the old days, especially of wrestling, and the casual viewer, to that still a deal to them. They don't know which side or which roster somebody is on, or the difference in the program. I've heard it a million times. Oh, you're on WWF, you're on WCW. They just recognize the company. So people will be tuning in thinking they're going to see some of these people when they hear about it. It's not a regular thing every week where people might tune in to Raw to see somebody that's not on Raw. But when Punk gets this kind of attention in mainstream news outlets, somebody that hadn't watched a wrestling show in 5 years may say, oh, shit, I'll watch Raw Monday night and see what's going on. You don't know. So they'll pick a little something up on everything.
And then around 10:45, they say, I think I've seen enough of Raw. This guy's never going to be on here.
Yeah, well, there you go. Then speaking of never being on, good Lord, Bianca versus Kairi Sane happened, and Kairi Sane was dressed like a pirate and holding a disembodied ship's wheel. It wasn't connected to anything. It was just the wheel. It looked like she had just wrecked the minnow. So they had that. And then we get to the main event of the evening. Aldis and Pierce in the ring. They're both going to try to sign Randy Orton. And Aldis, as your general manager of SmackDown, and he introduces Orton. And when Randy comes out, have you noticed he's starting to look like those classic pictures of his grandfather? And I'm not saying Randy Orton looks like his grandfather in a bad way. When his grandfather was young, Bob Orton, because remember, Bob Orton Jr. was taller, thinner, lankier.
No, but they all have the same face. They all have that Orton face.
Well, but also Bob Orton Jr. had curly hair and long, floppy curly hair for much of his career, and that's how you picture him. Whereas Randy, it not only has the Orton face, but is wider, like it, because remember, Bob Orton Sr. had a big upper body, and he looked like, when they did those classic early 60s pictures, he posed like Johnny Valentine or Buddy Rogers and had the good lighting and the blonde hair. Well, Randy has that. I mean, he's jacked. He looks like the Big O, Bob Orton Sr. But he got a big ovation and screams and chants and blah, blah, blah. And Aldis and Pierce start arguing and pitching their shows. They both got the clipboard with the contracts. One says Raw and one says SmackDown. And Adam Pierce, right off, I will get you a title shot with Seth Rollins for the world title if you sign this contract. And Aldis counters that with, I will give you the guys that took you out, the bloodline, if you sign this contract. And just then Paul comes out, Heyman, and he takes over the show as he usually does, and not in a bad way again. It's just, he's so good. And, well, Randy Orton's back looking for revenge. Well, there's going to be no RKOs handed out tonight and no decision made by Randy Orton because the bloodline's going to make your decision for you. And it is, get them, boys. And here comes Solo and Jimmy out. Now, again, I'm thinking it's the perfect time for this to happen, just like it was in the girls' promo when it got interrupted. But these guys, they make it look more like the shit is actually transpiring in the moment. Do you see what I'm trying to say, Brian?
I do.
They have a more experience. There's a little more. But anyway, here comes Solo and Jimmy. And Orton fights back, but they outnumber him. But then LA Knight's music hits, and LA Knight hits the ring and makes a comeback. And now, every time he hits somebody on a comeback, the people are yelling, yeah. But yeah. And they love doing that. So they're probably going to keep on doing it. And LA and Solo fight off through down the entranceway to the back. And Orton hits the draping DDT on Jimmy, and the fans go crazy calling for an RKO because that's what they want. They want to hear Punk talk. They want to see Randy RKO people. And as the fans are chanting Randy, boom, he hits it, and Heyman's upset, and Orton takes both contracts, and Paul's going, go to Raw, and you'll be safe. And Orton pitches the Raw contract over his shoulder and signs the SmackDown contract. I believe he should have probably held the contract up a little bit better for people to see which one he pitched, but Pierce did a good job of selling it on the floor.
That's what I was going to say. Pierce is the one who got that over because otherwise it's just a folder in the air.
Yeah, and it was spinning, and probably, he could have put somebody's eye out with it. Call Stephen P. New. But anyway, he signed the SmackDown contract. And then he told Paulie, call Roman and tell him Daddy's back. Oh, and Paul storms off in a huff, and Aldis raises Orton's hand, and the music is playing, and then Orton jumps up and RKO's Nick Aldis. Boom, so we got that going on too, because you couldn't trust the rattlesnake. Apparently you can't trust the viper either. Little Aldis, Orton, McMahon, Austin dynamic going on here.
Do you think they should have done that?
Yes, I love it. Because Aldis, here's the thing. I'm not saying that Aldis and Pierce need to get in the ring and settle their differences in the next couple months. That's an ongoing thing. But Aldis is obviously an ex-wrestler and a pretty decent-sized human being. He shouldn't be paralyzed by one RKO. And this establishes the same thing they were doing with Austin and McMahon. Orton's going to be anti-authority, even if this authority is a little more posh, but he's still a little heelish. And I think he can take a bump like that. And now he's going to begrudgingly, he's just signed Orton, but now he's going to secretly want to get even with him. And he's going to have to temper that with what's best for business. But at least you can understand this shit, and it means something, and it doesn't get lost. There's plenty of time to dwell on it in the middle of these goddamn rotten matches on this show. But that was SmackDown.
And Randy Orton is now on SmackDown.
And he is signed, sealed, and delivered. But I bet, Adam Pierce, could Pierce get goddamn Punk as a result of this? Could he go on a bidding frenzy? You don't know what's going to happen, but it's all stars.
Are they about to repeat the same thing? If Punk's going to be on SmackDown, will once again Pierce show up and they'll both try to sign him, and then Punk goes to Raw and it evens things out?
Well, but maybe Punk don't want to go anywhere, because maybe Punk says, I'm back. I didn't say I was, going to fucking limit myself. Maybe he's a free agent. He's not necessarily, wanting to play ball with anybody. Who knows? We got to wait and find out.